Everyone, welcome to the American Prairie Bison Program presentation, um, sponsored by the Great Plains Conservation Network. I'm the chair of the steering committee of GPCN, as well as the chair of the Bison Conservation Working Group. And we are really honored and appreciative today to have Pedro Calderon-Dominguez to provide this presentation. He's the senior program manager of American Prairie's Bison program. Pedro holds an MS in Natural Resource Management and BS in Ecology from the Autonomous University of Chihuahua, Mexico. And he is specialized in range and wildlife management and conservation and is certified in holistic management by the Savory Institute. Pedro is an active member of the low stress stockmanship and regenerative grasslands communities, which has become the practice of American Prairie in terms of rounding up their animals for testing. And um, it's amazing what Pedro does for American Prairie with this academic and experienced background. Before joining AP in 2022, Pedro was a ranch manager at the Chapman Livestock LLC in northwestern Oklahoma. So he brings great insights to not only cattle ranching, but also to bison. And prior to that, he managed Rancho El Uno in Chihuahua, where he was also the manager of Mexico's bison conservation herd, which is an incredible feat and lots of successes now being realized thanks to Pedro. Uh, Pedro grew up in northern Mexico, and having worked in the Chihuahuan Desert for, gosh, more than 20 years, he is very much appreciative, as he says, about wide open spaces, wildlife conservation, the culture and life on the range. And he has made it a career in communicating with animals, especially bison. Um, and he has an incredible knack for doing that, as I've seen personally. He guides his current, um, herd from pastures to pastures and through a very politically charged landscape as American Prairie is dealing with. But he always brings a calm, quiet, and patient demeanor to his work. And I just want to say I'm really with great gratitude to have Pedro here presenting as my colleague and friend, and he will discuss American Prairie's Bison program today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chami. That was a long introduction. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I don't know how many we have there. Um, but I know that right now at this point, there will be a lot of questions and concerns about the Bison program in American Prairie. So I'm going to try, because I'm not really good with timing and talking, but I'm going to try to keep the presentation like efficient and tight, and then see if we can have some time for discussions at the end. So, American Prairie Bison Program, I mean, it's been evolving for 20 years now. There have been like in my head there have been like three main changes or four for the Bison program. So was the operation that we have here 20 years ago with the first reintroductions of bison, small herds, small properties, staff with like initial dreams and projections. And then the program has been evolving because of the bison herd has been growing and the habitat land base that we have is bigger now, and the goals are more palpable and real. So after that, there will be a big change like 8 years ago when we start to change the approach of the management of the bison. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that philosophy later. And then that will take us to the point where we are today, and that is pretty much setting the bison herd for success. Uh, you can see there that it says American Prairie Bison Program to restore the dignity to the buffalo. So that is very important to us in American Prairie. Is one of our main mottos to restore the dignity to the bison, to the buffalo. And the way that we see it is that we want the bison as a species to be successful in the restoration work and conservation. And that leads to the question that how the bison lost their dignity. Well, we all know that more than 100 years ago. But uh, we have been like, in my opinion, we have been a little bit like crooked in the way that we are trying to bring the dignity to the buffalo in the modern times. And this is the same speech that I'm gonna have for my friends and my partners from the bison production world, as well with my friends and partners from the conservation world. So the way that I see it is the bison lost their dignity when in the production world there is too much control on them, too much control on the bison. And in the conservation world, we have the scene of the contrary, of the opposite situation, that sometimes we don't have control over our animals, lack of control. So our program dance between having and developing control with our bison herds in order to achieve our restoration goals and set them for success. And the Bison team is Scott Heidebring. A lot of you know Scott, my boss. He is the director of the stewardship, landscape stewardship in American Prairie, and the Bison program is under him. Then is myself. I'm the senior Bison operations manager. Manning Rushton is the Bison manager on the ground. I'm on the ground as well, but Manning is the one running bolts and nuts every day out there in the field. Mariah Gaston and Alexandria Anderson are our hands in the field. They are every day outside, boots on the grounds, checking fences, checking buffalo, moving animals, doing monitoring, all things that the operation involves. And Ellen Anderson and Lars Anderson, there are veterans here in American Prairie. They have more than 10 years of experience here. Both of them are program managers and they are in charge of what I call special operations. So, data management, projections, darting, handling, veterinary work. So, it's pretty much that the core of the Bison team. Um, let's see. So, following with a little bit more of philosophy, I don't know if you ever heard this idea that if you want to get to the root of a problem or a reason of an event or a behavior or something, you want to get the real answer. If you want to get to the root of the answer of something, you have to ask several times why. Hmm? Well, we believe in American Prairie that the answers for our 7 times why to our bison program is buffalo first, bison first, bisonte first, cibolo first, ini first, tatanka first, iyane first. So those are 7 different ways to say bison first, buffalo first. And the reason that I like and we like to think that way in American Prairie is because uh, there are just a few handful of bison restoration programs focused 100% in the benefit of the species and the habitat. And that's normal. That's normal because we are humans and our nature is to be anthropocentric minded. So it's very difficult in these times to become ecocentric minded. But if you just consider any management action and restoration action, putting the buffalo first, everything is easier and everything makes more sense with every decision. So we like to have that in mind. So how much it weighs? That photo, I like that photo. I use it a lot. Uh, It's an old saying in Spanish, but I try to tailor it to English. But how much it weighs the load. And you can see one, two, three, four, five um, numbers there. So that's pretty much the American Prairie Bison Conservation in that photo, American Prairie Prairie Conservation and Restoration and Management in that photo. But if you go back to school, for those who have some training in wildlife management and conservation, you will remember that on classic wildlife management, the one taught by Aldo Leopold, uh, the main columns that support the wildlife management as a whole, it has five components, five columns. One is habitat management, two is population management, three is environmental education, four is human dimensions, and five is public policy. So you're required to be able to handle all those together to be successful in a conservation project. And here in American Prairie, when I say how much it weight, well, it's really difficult because there's some projects in a specific and some lines of this profession in a specific that are expert in habitat management, other experts in population management, other experts in human dimensions, etc., etc. And I have 25 years of experience on this deal, and it's really difficult to cover all together. But if you want to be successful, you have to be paying attention and be thorough on each of those. And how much it weighs? Well, nobody knows, but the donkey that is carrying the whole package. So I like to make this comment because of right on these times you know that we have been into a lot of controversy and dilemmas, but it weighs a lot. But we have the load really well distributed. Some photos of the Bison team. This one is the one in the red ATV is Alexandria. The one with all the vet supplies in the squeeze chute is Ellen Anderson. The squeeze chute operator by the time is Lars Anderson, but he can do pretty much everything. And then the guys with the bison covering the eyes is Lars and Scott. Scott asking us if we are sure all the time. The one in the ATV with the bison in the grasslands is Mariah herding the White Rock herd. And then the one sorting the bison for handling is Manning Rushton. And then we have some other help. We have some volunteers. We have our bison vet. We have staff for those who knows Danny Kinka. Sometimes he helps in handling as well. We have our pilot contractor that helps with surveys. And I just let that blank space with many, many, many other helps because, this bison program in American Prairie has a lot of help, a lot of collaborators, and I don't want to miss anybody, so I just leave it like that. But if you are one of our collaborators, and thank you very much for that. So, what's the vision and mission of the program? The vision is a vast and collaboratively managed prairie complex that serves as a fully functioning ecosystem for wildlife and people, where bison is the primary driver for grassland management and restoration. Our midterm goal is to manage 5,000 bison. Um, Midterm because remember that bison time, space, and efficiency is way different than human time, space, and efficiency. So that's why we are considering it midterm. So is to manage 5,000 bison as close as they meant to be by nature as possible, with the approach and duties related to conservation herds. Following the current classification for bison management in Montana, and if the state, federal government, or public decide to designate bison as wildlife in the region, we will support that eventually if that happened in this lifetime. How old is the Bison program, American Prairie? 20 years last year. And from 2005 to the date, 2,200 bison more or less have been stepping on on American prairie lands. The current population is 942. We have imported 378 from different herds. Um, Elk Island, Wind Cave, Yellowstone genetics. You want to dig into those little details. We have a really nice information database in the webpage. We have shipped out 686 bison, more than anything, maybe 90% of those or more, to support other restoration efforts and tribes. To the date, we have harvested 350, and we have the estimation that maybe 220 have died during those 20 years of natural reasons in the pasture. So, money, how do we operate, right? Well, all of you know, American Prairie, we are a nonprofit, and we are a donor-based nonprofit that our duties are prairie conservation. And that's pretty much it. Recently, with all this deal with the BLM, I have receiving contacts and comments. We have the whole company, and about, well, where do you go? Where do you get the money and all those sort of things, social media. Um, but I mean, I guess that a lot of the people that is right now listening this presentation in the Great Plains Conservation Network is really familiarized with the donor-based nonprofits that work in conservation. So it's pretty normal. It's pretty much a standard way to operate. And the only thing is that these companies like ours are a little bit different, but it's something that is good. It's something that is really good. And when you know the people who donate from $10 to thousands of dollars, every single people that relates with American Prairie has the best intentions in the world. And most of them, I have to say, all of them, they have a huge heart because they know that they are supporting a noble cause. So, what is a freaking conservation herd then? I love this photo. Some of you are going to be recognized right there, and if no, I'm just going to name you. Uh, so, this is a photo that I like a lot for two things. One, because it's kind of a cartoon, those cartoons that you see on wildlife management presentations. And the other one is because Mike Buffalo Soldier from South Dakota, one day say that bison conservation is a history of collaboration. And that is right now what's happening on that photograph. So we are in this darting training in Fort Belknap, organized by the Annie Nakota College. And you can see Michaela in the front from the ITVC, Terry Harper making jokes in the back. And then you have Terry and Mark from Global Wildlife Services processing the bison that is darted. And then my technicians there. You have people from the Smithsonian Research Institute. I don't know what they're doing. I think that they're praying to the bison, but now they are just checking the pulse and breathing rates. And the veterinary in the back, and our friends from Navajo Nation, Fort Belknap, um, Blackfeet. So, bison conservation is a history of collaboration. But it cannot be it cannot be so romantic. It has to be like real and palpable. So, um, this is what I like to think on this photograph on what is how it looks bison conservation. This is our bison herd in White Rock, more or less 350 animals, and And that's how you want to see a bison conservation herd. I mean, on healthy prairies, healthy land where they're grazing, acting as a herd, marking their own distances between them, their own social structure, their own age structure, and but doing their job as nature meant to be, but to the point that we, as stewards of our bison herds, have control with them. So, uh, to me, a bison conservation herd is going to be a conservation herd until the point that it turns into wildlife, like under the legislation. But as long we have to call them and put some tax on them, we have to develop control with them. And right now, I'm about to be ready to move this bison by myself. This was 2 years ago. So 350 animals acting as close as nature as possible. But we did our homework and we developed our way to to communicate with them and to be able to prepare them to be successful, to prepare them for success, for success. Um, what we know that is possible under this bison conservation herd deal, following the Bermejo statement, indicators for conservation herds. So, what we know in American Prairie that is possible? Well, the herd size is big, from 400 to 1,000 to 5,000, and then more than 5,000. Well, we know that it's possible to get to 400, and we know that might be possible to get 1,000. Right now, we this year we're gonna get 1,200 more or less bison in American Prairie, but we have them divided in two herds. But we know it's possible. Then from them and up, it's going to depend of land base and permits and all those things. Population structure managed by nature without human intervention. I don't think that's possible right now. I think that we can get as close as possible to that. But you can see that thing that says extreme ownership and that accountability is in the mirror. That means that if you are a herd manager or you are advocated to bison conservation and you have a say on that, you go to the mirror and then you will see yourself and you are going to be the one hold accountable for the success of that program, and you are the responsible for the successful of that conservation herd. So that means that as long as bison needs to be managed under fence, it doesn't really matter how big it is. The pasture, you need to be in charge of manage the population structure. Pasture size from 5,000 to 50,000 acres, then up to 500,000 acres. Well, we know that it's possible to fight 50,000 acres. Right now, we haven't get there. We have two properties right now, more than 50,000 acres, but I mean, between the two of them. It's possible, but requires a lot of work and money. Bison are free to move on their own with no exceptions. Yep. Natural selection, yeah, total possible. Interaction with native vertebrates and bugs, yes. Interaction with the ecosystem processes, and I put this heavy uh, because again, as our duty as a managers, we want a heavy interaction between the bison grazing and animal impact on the ecosystem processes. Public access, 100% possible. Indigenous cultural use, 100% possible. Her lives inside historical distribution range. Yes, 100% possible, but it's an everyday game. Reportable diseases, if you do your homework and then you put together a nice health program, is 100% possible. Genetic diversity is 100% possible with all the collaborations that we have in the bison world now. Genetic integrity, plains and wood. Well, we need to get careful on this one. Yes, it's possible, but because of the fad of getting bigger and more productive animals in the meat world, there have been some weird things there. So we have to be more and more careful with plains and with bison. Social, political, environment, and capacity. It's a game of every day. Um, it's possible, but it's a game of every day. Long-term security of ecological recovery. Hopefully, one day we can achieve that. Capacity to manage. If you know which side you want to climb the mountain, then you can develop capacity to manage the bison herds. But you have to go and think outside of the box every single day. And then I don't know why in the Bermejo statement. I mean, I know there's people here in this talk that were sitting on that table when they became with that market incentives, and I put that now just why there has to be, and this is just I'm not expecting an answer. I'm just want to throw this to the air. Why does have to be a market incentive, a commercial incentive uh, for restoration, wildlife restoration? Um, I know that there's a need, and believe me, I mean, I have worked in this restoration, regenerative grazing, ranching for profit world. I know all that very well. But when you talk about wildlife management and conservation, wildlife conservation, why? Why there has to be a market incentive? I'm just a saying. How many we have? In the fall of 2026, our aerial count was 940. We're 42, but I just rounded it to 40. In White Rock, we have a herd of 432. In Sun Prairie, 510. And where are the bison in American Prairie? Right now, they are on these three units. White Rock is the one on top, 25,000 acres altogether. So the dark blue polygons are our deeded land, and the light green is the BLM allotment, and the light blue squares are the state sections. So White Rock altogether 25,000 acres, 430 animals. SP, Sun Prairie, 27,000 acres with 510. And as this fall, Drive for Unit, we moved bison back here to start the food sovereignty program supporting Rocky Boy as a pilot project. The tribes from Rocky Boy, Korean Chippewa, 6,500 acres with 32 bison there for now. So um, we have two ways to see the bison program in American Prairie. One is kind of the upper level vision and of the program. That will be our bison management plan. And then we have the bison management and standard operation procedures. That is pretty much what dictates the guidelines for day to day here. So there are 9 main activities there. Field harvest between January and March. Low stress bison handling operations on pasture, and that will be for following our grazing needs between March and November. Fencing operations year round. We check more than 100 miles of fences every 2 weeks, no matter what. Darting operations, depending what we need to do. If there's a sampling to take, if there's a animal that we need to trap and remove or translocate, we use darting operations. Bison handling facility operations, that's is pretty much the works related to moving the corrals. So we only have one facility in three bison herds, so we move it depending where are we going to handle that year. That requires 45 to 50 flatbed loads of the whole mess. And some of you came here in the end of the summer, so you saw our corrals. And then bison handling operations, that is bison works. So is catching the bison at the end of the summer, prepare them for handling, and then after handling works, if we are going to ship out bison or we have to do some testing for several reasons. Aerial counts, we have one in April before calving and one in September after the rut. Range monitoring. We want to know how our pastures are doing, how the grassland and habitat structures are doing, and that happens between June and August. And then grazing management all year round. Normally, with grazing management, we will be planning a lot of things during this season at the beginning of the year, and then we start to move animals, bison around in March to follow the grazing plan. A little bit about the monitoring. The monitoring that we have, the ecological monitoring, is a sample of three main methodologies. One is the ecological monitoring from the Smithsonian Research Institute, that is one of our main research collaborators. And then we combine that protocol with the NRS, ARS, NRCS range monitoring protocols. And then that's where we get most of the information for production and habitat structure. And then for landscape use, how our animals are using the landscape, how the bison are using the landscape. We implement qualitative evaluations from the School of Thought of Holistic Management. And we have 20 sampling sites per property, so 40 total. The management questions that we want to answer with the monitoring is, which is the health condition of the range? How is the balance of the organic matter, microorganisms, and minerals on the soil components? How is the structure of the vegetation? How is the composition of the vegetation? Forest production that will feed us with the information to define the stocking rate and the carrying capacity. How is the habitat mosaic? How is the habitat condition for key wildlife species, not just bison, but all the wildlife that we have in the prairie? And how are the bison using the landscape, and if we have to do some adjustments, or the way that we see it, how do we suggest them some adjustment to be more efficient in the use of the habitat? The general guidelines for grazing, our stocking rates will vary from 20 to 70 acres per animal unit per year. We implement planned adaptive grazing, and if there's a need for, we will apply instinctive migratory grazing, which is basically natural to bison. Instinctive migratory grazing is a process that you will use to train cattle to behave as a bison. So when bison learn, remember again, bison space and time is very different than human space and time. So it doesn't really matter if you have a pasture of 100 to 200,000 acres together. There will be a fence around. The bison will meet the fence. They will know the boundaries, and then they become like not lazy, but I mean, bison is a herbivore and a prey animal, and energy conservation is a must. So if he knows that there's a fence on the other side of the creek, well, I'm not gonna go and cross the creek and climb to that fence because there's no way to go. So you need to understand those traits with your bison herd and teach them that it's okay and fine a new spot to use more efficiently the habitat. And that's where the instinctive migratory grazing practices became handy. And then the differences between White Rock and Sun Prairie. For the one that knows our operation, you know that Sun Prairie we had the permits for year-round grazing, and then White Rock we follow the BLM lease grazing plan in White Rock Coulee that requires more or less 12 moves of the bison during the year. And it's not that we are moving them like every day, but it's more or less once 3 weeks, once a month, suggesting them to where to go if there's a need for that. How do we manage the herd? The herd management, population management that we have implemented here has two components. This is what you're seeing right now, the data that we handle at home, like in the house. And basically, we follow the age classes suggested by Wes Olson. Young animals, yearlings, young animals, young adults, mature, dominant, and aged bison. And so this is what we do like by hand, right? And that helps us to define trends, age structure, um, sex ratio, and we based our management decisions on those proportions. Then we have a huge help from the IUCN Conservation Planning Specialist Group last year. Thanks to Scott Heidebring that got us this help. Paul Senner and Philip Miller, they are experts in population modeling. So we spend the whole year working with them to have a really solid science based of the data, and we feed the model with our on the ground data, and then they did their magic, and now we have access to all these really nice graph where we can project the growing of the herd for the next 50 years, and then we can adjust the management decisions of what do we need in terms of new blood and what do we need in terms of population management to get to the right structure that we want. So the management strategies are pretty much two: field harvest. We have this public harvest every winter. In the fall, in the winter, we harvest any number between 20 and 45 animals. And then it's a lottery if you are familiar with that. And then it's just 30 or 40 animals. So when we have to like move animals around to maintain social structures, sex ratios, and stocking rates in order, then we will work with our collaborators, Intertribal Buffalo Council, neighbor tribes, federal herds, other private conservation herds. We will like communicate with all our partners in advance, and then we will ship animals out. I just saw on the first one of the first slides, we have shipped almost 700 animals in the history of the bison program. And this is just some photos about how the operation looks like. Sometimes we prepare with hay for handling. We don't feed animals. We don't feed the bison during the year at all in the pasture. So that hay, that alfalfa is just during the handling period, because we keep the bison in the corral between 3 weeks and 6 weeks, depending what we need to do that year. Bison works, the veterinary there, and a lot of herding. So just normal bison stuff. That's the aerial photo of the last design of our facilities. Um, this facility was designed by Wes Olson in the Elk Island herd many years ago. And then my coworkers, Lars, Scott, and Damian, that is no longer with us, but they took the main idea from that design, and then they added some more inputs from the low stress bison handling school of thought, and then by experience. So every year is been different. Every year is been modified a little bit better and better and better until we got to this design now. I mean, of course, there will be a couple of adjustments for the next year, but this facility can handle, I guess, 500 animals. And we have a set of pastures where we keep the animals before handling around, and it's been an interesting development of the design. Um, so part of the monitoring of the bison, where are the bison outside? Where are they moving? This We use this satellite ear tags, and these satellite ear tags were started as a collaboration with the Smithsonian as a research, and then they have become really, really handy on our daily operations. So we know more or less. More than one third of each herd has ear tags. And so that give us the general information where they are and which seasons and how successful are we doing with the landscape use with bison and when we need to move them from one place to another. Collaborations with the tribes. Right now, the more active one is the collaboration with the tribes of Rocky Boy, Chippewa, and Cree. We have been helping them in the last 7 years, starting their own herd there. And then last fall, we just started the first sovereignty pilot program here at Dry Fork with 32 bison. And then the collaboration that is always there with the Aninakora College and the Aninakora Tribes Buffalo program there. So yeah, we just collaborate like depending what we need, help on handling, help on ideas, trainings. We have the students here in handling. We go there when they are doing something with bison. So our permanent collaboration. And of course, a lot of collaborations to face the storm. This Bison program, American Prairie, has so many partners and supporters that is incredible. Now in recent days, everything has been more evident, but is as I like to say, the Bison world is a big, big, big family, and there have been so many collaborators from all sorts of walks of life, ranching experts, bison experts, policy experts, our friends from the tribes, pure conservationists, really good ecologists, really good people from the area and the community. So this program runs based on a lot of collaborations. So thank you, by the way, for that. And that's the end of my presentation. So now we can talk for a little bit, I guess. We have 15 minutes.
Great job, Pedro. Really appreciate the thoughtful presentation. Yeah, wow. American Prairie is clearly the leader on large landscape, bison recovery outside of, some of our federal land partners like Yellowstone and Badlands. I guess I want to just sort of lead with this question. It's a tough needle to thread between husbandry and wildlife conservation. But when it comes to wildlife, that's largely the mission is managing them as wildlife. Um, w- Water. I mean, you touched on forage and habitat, but water is such a finite resource, and I'm just wondering what are the challenges there on American Prairie with making sure you have adequate water resources for the herd, in addition to forage, and if you could just speak to that, and then we can go on to other questions. Just wanted to lead that off.
Yeah, no, water is, oh, thanks God, abundant here. So we have two main creeks on each property. Some Prairie we have Telegraph Creek, and White Rock we have Beaver Creek, and Dry Fork is Beaver Creek as well. So they are semi-permanent creeks that flow during the year, and normally they will be fed by the snow during the winter. So our drought plan gets on like active when we don't have a lot of snow, for example, this year. So we have two wells on each property that we can turn it on, and they are running all year round. They are low flow wells, and they have like a main water tank right outside of the well, but it's not a big one. But they are flowing to the creek. So they are feeding the creek flow, and that maintains the water availability for bison. They can walk forever to find water, but it's not strange for them. Has to walk 8 to 20 miles from one water hole to another. And for example, on that photo, you can see these cows. They are heading down there to the water actually, and we have a lot of little water deer tanks. So this is the situation for northern Great Plains. In my experience, you go more or less to the line between northern Colorado and Wyoming, and that will be Nebraska to North Dakota, more or less. From there to the south, you want to be active with your water developing network. So as little you get in your environment, you want to be prepared with water developing network. But one of the beauties of the bison is that you don't have to go crazy because they need to walk to the water. And so in the cattle world, in the cattle world, in the cattle world, when they get really, really, really touchy, they don't want the cattle to walk more than half a mile to the water. But even that, you don't need that. I mean, water sources every 5 miles, I think is plenty for bison. And I mean, Rurik is here in the Chihuahuan Desert. He's like, yeah, they can go forever without water. Mhm.
Thank you, Pedro.
Great. Yeah, do we have any other questions? Nick.
Thanks, Pedro. This was great. You answered one of my questions. You do not supplemental feed, but my first question is that definition of a conservation herd, I believe, was from IUCN. Is that right? Or I'm wondering what it says about supplemental feeding of bison. And secondly, this isn't an issue this year, but what would be American Prairie's plan if we had an exceptionally harsh winter with really deep snows out there? How would you address that if the bison were potentially uh, really stressed for food?
Okay, the first question, and I know there's people in the presentation that was sitting on the table when they developed the Bermejo statement for bison conservation herds. I took those guidelines from the article published with the Bermejo statement. Uh, in terms of supplemented feed, you want to be careful with the consistency of the hay that you are supplementing your animals in case you need to, because the rumen takes 2 or 3 weeks to get used to it. So if you are supplementing different sources of hay, the bison is going to suffer and is going to go into nutritional stress. And so that's why you want to be constant with the source of the supplemental feed that you might need. As I say, we don't supplement them in the pasture. We only feed them from between 2 to 6 weeks, depending of the handling season. If we for how long we require to have them in the corrals. We manage our stocking rate in a way that there's always extra food. So we never go above 50 or 60% of the maximum stocking rate. So the grazing impact that the animals does in the landscape is because of the natural density that they grazed, but not because of adjusting the pounds per acre of grass, if that makes sense. So basically, we always managing the carrying capacity and the stocking rate to have at least 40% of extra food for the grazing season. Then snow, it doesn't really matter. They dig like a bulldozer, and they will get the forage under the snow. So it's more than anything, long cold winters without snow what might hurt these northern landscapes. If you go more to the southern landscapes, they have a little bit more benefits because the warm season grasses are more equal, like in the central part of the Great Plains. Like you will have more or less the same production of cold season and warm season grasses. And then you move to the south and you will have more proportions of warm season grasses. And the warm season grasses, they have the beauty of maintain a high level of high percentage of protein even when they're dry. So, long story short, since bison is super, super, super adaptable and flexible, it's kind of, if you are grazing in a larger number of animals than what you should, then that's where the problems are with nutrition.
Cliff?
Thanks, Pedro. That was really good on this whole conservation herd, whatever. I think we just want to have more plains buffalo out there. One of our Indigenous colleagues in Saskatchewan kind of refers to what you're doing as buffalo keeping. She doesn't like the word management as much because it implies more of what we don't want to do. But as you said, we're probably never going to get to a zero management. Otherwise, then you're probably doing something wrong. But that's this complicated discussion that we have. What size of area do you think you could do that, or is it a habitat north-south movement thing where you really wouldn't need much management anymore?
Can you elaborate more?
Well, I think American Prairie has a goal of getting 3 million acres. Is that big enough? And do you have enough winter, summer in there and movement capacity without fences to allow that system to really look after itself? We've talked to some people, the smaller you get, then you've got to be really mindful of making sure buffalo can do their thing. So they may separate into smaller groups in the fall, and in the smaller area, you can't do that, right? Unless you manage them. So we call that maybe keeping in the modern time, right?
Okay. Uh, well, my favorite answer, it depends. Uh, we have this projection of 5,000 animals, 3 to 5,000 animals, once the landscape is connected. But yeah, those 3 million acres for 5, 6,000 animals. But it depends. It depends how big the herd is in that projection.
Any other questions? Rick? What's that?
Quick answer. There are two objectives. The Sanderson paper with the Bermejo statement, the idea is to recover the ecological role of the bison on a continental scale. The IUCN objective is to maintain wild individuals. So they overlap, but there are different objectives. And it has been many years, more than 18 since the paper, but the reason for the market incentives is because we recognize that most bison are on production herds. So in order for those, or as many of those bison and productive herds to contribute to the ecological recovery of the bison, if they had economic incentives towards an ecological management, it would be an advance towards that greater goal of ecological recovery.
Great. Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions?
Just me again.
Oh, you again? Okay.
Yeah, I just really short ones. How much those satellite ear tags cost? Nuts and bolts. And do you have a court date or, what kind of timeline for some resolution of your current difficulties with the BLM lands?
Yeah. The cost, I think that went too expensive this year. I guess it's because of the tariffs. There were $28 per ear tag. And then last year they went, I think 72.
Okay.
So we are looking for another option. Yeah, I think yes, or more. I can check with Ellen Anderson is the one in charge of the ear tax. I can get the right amount for you, but they were like really really high up, and you can buy them from a provider in Fort Collins, Colorado, but they are Australian technology. Yeah, those houses are really good with all those kind of satellite monitoring stuff. So um, we got them from there, but I can get you the right information. But we are
Thanks.
looking for other options. And in terms of resolution, we just, as you know, submit the protest last week, and then we are waiting for the response for that in the next 2 weeks maybe, and then from there we will see. Um, it's like we will see.
Right.
But for now, like the next step is gonna be known in the next 3 weeks, I guess. We already have plan B, C, D, and E aligned. Um, just waiting for what is gonna be, and yeah, we and our on the bison as well. I want to count the bison as we as well. We are getting ready for what may come.
Okay. Thanks for keeping the main thing. And if you need help, you got lots of friends out this
Yeah.
way.
We know that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro. And yeah, we'll keep everyone informed through the Great Plains Conservation Network and the Bison Working Group on all things American Prairie as that issue goes forward, and we hope to continue to fight it collectively. But Pedro, can't thank you enough for making this time for this awesome conversation and your presentation. And Lindsay, just want to close with you. Thanks again, Pedro.
I think you
Yeah,
said it all,
thank you.
Shami. Thank you so much to Pedro for coming and everybody else here. We did record it, so you can have a look. It should be up on our website sort of in the next few days. So hope everybody has a good day. The snow is already here, and it sounds like it's on its way down to Montana tonight. So stay warm, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to see you all.
Gracias, Pedro.
Hasta
Gracias.
luego, Rurik. Gusto en verte.